Good morning, everyone. Lee Stranahan. Welcome to the morning news roundup. Still trying to work out some of the technical stuff here, and we're not quite starting at 5:30, but pretty soon. Don't you worry. This is where we give you a more concise look at the news. And in the headlines this morning, there's a lot of COVID news, as there is every morning, pretty much in the mainstream media now. The big story is that in the U.S., 1 million cases have been claimed in the last 24 hours. Now, I pointed that out on my radio show, The Backstory, a few weeks ago, that when you increase testing, you're going to increase the number of cases. Sure enough, that's what's happened. Meanwhile, and I've mentioned this because it's true, in Chicago today, they're doing remote learning. Now, this comes after the teachers' union voted to go to remote learning because the teachers' union is not happy with the precautions being taken against COVID. And I say this because a lot of people in my audience are skeptical of a lot of the government's claims on COVID. And you need to understand that there are two sides to this. I'm not saying they're the same. What I'm saying is there are people who are really concerned about COVID and doesn't think the government is doing enough. And if you're part of my normal audience, that's shocking to you, but it's true. And that's what's happened in Chicago. Meanwhile, Joe Biden got on TV last night and did a sort of very lectury talk to America and called this the pandemic of the unvaccinated. And we'll be talking more about that today on The Backstory. Meanwhile, even though it's the pandemic of the unvaccinated, Jimmy Fallon, the host of The Tonight Show, who is vaccinated and boosted, joins people like Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who was vaccinated and boosted, in having caught what they're calling breakthrough cases. I just call them cases. Right? That's what they are. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, Italy is voting today on whether they should have more COVID-19 restrictions. And in Hong Kong, they're debating whether the zero COVID policy that they have, where they really shut down things very quickly, is sustainable. And we're seeing people's position with the Omicron variant being more infectious but less deadly, more like the flu, it seems. We'll see what happens. That doesn't keep people. By the way, in the UK, Boris Johnson announced 200K cases in the last 24 hours. And Johnson's also calling for people to be vaccinated. So the political push to vaccinate everybody continues. Meanwhile, the other thing, tomorrow, and the media has now fixed on the term insurrection. That's what they've come up with. The protest, whatever you call it, at the Capitol, they're also saying deadly insurrection. And they're not pointing out who died, but that's tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary. And we're seeing quite a bit of media on that. The FBI announced that they're currently looking for 300 people. So they haven't arrested enough people. That's what's happening there. Meanwhile, one of the big international stories right now is the government in Kazakhstan is now former USSR, former Soviet Republic, now an independent country. They're in a lot of trouble there. It has to do with people upset over labor conditions for natural gas workers and so on. But the parliament is no more, and there's big protests. We'll hopefully be talking about that today more on the situation on The Backstory. Meanwhile, in Boulder County, Colorado, there were devastating fires, and they're still investigating that. Entire communities were destroyed. People's, lost everything in some cases, so that's happening. In a bizarre story, in Virginia, on a stretch of I-95, there were people trapped for about 20 hours after a foot of snow fell, and they didn't do a good job. And they were trapped for 20 hours, sometimes with kids in the car, no food, no bathroom. It's early. I don't want to destroy your breakfast, but you get the idea here. This is a bad situation. And now the Virginia officials are, apologizing. Oops. Sorry. Sorry you and your kids were pooping on the side of the road in 20-degree weather. Oops. Our bad. Meanwhile, Macron, who's also saying he wants to make life tough for people who aren't vaccinated, a number of people are actively talking about an EU army. And this is what a lot of people were concerned about, is an EU force. Meanwhile, North Korea did another missile test. The usual people who don't like that sort of thing, which is pretty much everyone but North Korea, Japan, South Korea, chief among them, said they didn't like this one bit. That's the morning news update. Let me see if I can hit the right button here. Probably not. See, one of the problems I have is over here in my setup, the button's not working. Oh, by the way, we're done with the news. We're brought to you by Citizen Journalism School, and if you're interested, I mentioned this yesterday. I'm selling a switcher. The kind of see right here. This is the new switcher I got. So I'm selling the old one that I have, which is perfect if you want to start live streaming. You'll be able to do that with the ATEM switcher that I have that I'm selling for $250. Just get in touch if you're interested. Anyway, till next time. I can't do this manual. Let's try it, shall we? I'm Liz Stranahan. Bye. Nope, see, it didn't work. Now I've got to go down.